Welcome to the Life Coach Lounge. I'm Angela.
I'm Lisa.
I'm Emily. We're three life coaches who found connection in faith, friendship, and purpose.
Get ready for real talk, relatable stories, and practical tips you can actually use.
We're so happy you're here at the Life Coach Lounge. Hello. Welcome back to the lounge. We are discussing something today that I mentioned at the end of episode 11. We were finishing up talking about all the confessions, all those maybe, what's the word, Angela? The one that the unpopular
Opinions.
Yes, of others. So if you haven't listened to that episode, that's actually a fun one. Even our husbands were like, oh my gosh, I learned some things. That was kind of cool. At the end of that episode, I said one of my unpopular opinions was that the phrase women can have it all, air quotes, was toxic garbage. And both of you agreed in that moment. And then we just let it go. And then I had some side conversations with some friends after that episode aired. But I thought we would just kind of talk a little bit more about that phrase because as women, we've all heard it. Some kind of rah, women can have it all. Women can do all things. They can be all people to some form of that. And so before we kind of break it down a little bit today, I thought I would ask each of you, what is the most ridiculous use or an example of this phrase that you've seen used?
I think for me, it's when you're raising kids and other moms talk about moms being the masters of multitasking. That one always got me because I have found in my life that every time I'm quote unquote multitasking, I'm actually kind of just spinning in place and not doing anything 100%. So yeah, I would disagree with moms are masters of multitasking.
Yeah. A little tagline onto the women can have it all and be masters of multitasking. I do see how they're connected for sure. Yeah. How about you, Emily?
I just think the whole idea that like superwoman, like you can be superwoman and you don't need anyone else. Like that whole idea of, yep, you really truly do have superpowers. And I think it gets extremely toxic when it gets to the point of, you don't even need a man. Like that whole extreme idea of you don't need anyone else, including a man, to be able to do all the things and be successful.
And for myself personally, I don't want to be misunderstood. It's not that I don't believe women are completely capable of doing their best to quote unquote have it all or multitask or do things on their own without the support of others. Of course, that can happen. But what I think is toxic is, especially as a life coach, I think we are all trained to listen when phrases like that can produce thoughts that really allow a woman's mind to think, am I failing? Am I like, it's almost a little bit of a lie. If you say, well, you can have it all. No one, male or female, can have it all. So when we think about the toxic thought behind that a little bit as life coaches, so here's an example, and both of you just touched upon this. I should be able to excel at X work. Maybe you're taking courses or doing some kind of certification or something like that and be a perfect mom. How would either one of you, as coaches, just kind of help someone who was feeling like you mentioned multitasking? Like, I see other women managing everything effortlessly. Like, how would either one of you kind of just help a woman kind of unpack that thought a little bit? We'll start with you, Emily.
I mean, I think what I picked up on what you just said was that whole comparison piece, looking at what everybody else is doing and making that our standard and creating unrealistic expectations for ourselves. So I think the first thing would be to just help that woman identify who they are, what their skills are, what their capacity is, what their need for rest might be, what their need for margin in their days in their life might be, and really just take all the comparison and all of the expectations from like the outside perspective and really hone in on who are you and what are your capabilities. Let's start there and create realistic expectations in all of those areas and see where you might need support or help, or putting one of like the certification or schooling or work half days or half time instead of full time. I think just breaking it down sometimes and quieting the outside pressure can help you really see what is it that I specifically need and am capable of as an individual.
Yeah, absolutely. The comparison piece, I think, comes up quite frequently in the lounge, and I think that is because men too, but women especially, we do fall victim to comparing ourselves to others, and or even not a person, just other circumstances, like what we see or have heard to be the quote unquote norm. So if we're not following or aligning with what is quote unquote normal, then we get into that compare and despair.
Yeah. I think too, if you already are a person that's wired to be that overachiever and
Mhm.
already have super high expectations of yourself, and then you add on that outside pressure of what the quote unquote norm is or what everybody else is doing, that just doubles down on the pressure.
Right. So, Angela, if you were going to help, we'll do a little coach model here. If you were going to kind of talk someone through their thought about having it all, which, as we just were talking about with comparison, makes it feel like an all or nothing type of scenario. And Emily just explained it so well that that's really not the case. How would you help someone kind of work through that thought model for them to kind of be more based in reality?
Well, the coaching model is thoughts create feelings, and feelings create actions, inactions, or reactions. So I would ask how, if that is the thought they have, that I'm not doing enough or I need to have it all, how does that make you feel? And what do you do when you're feeling that way, or not do when you're feeling that way? I also would really tug on what they mean by having it all, because my suspicion is that when they define having it all and then look at their own life, most likely they have everything that they already want and need.
That's so good.
When you just described that, Angela, I remember so many times, not in just this particular phrase, but so many times using phrases that have words in it like all the time, everything, something like, well, that always happens to me, or like those type of phrases. So it just reminded me when you were like, I would kind of tug at that, like, what does that really mean? Having it all. Because again, I think a lot of times women compare themselves, right, to other people in whatever society has kind of written as this is the definition of what it means for a woman to have it all. So, another thing that kind of comes up, and we've talked about this too in the lounge on several occasions, is the shoulds, So I think it was Emily who talked about shoulds once, and she was very clear for any closed captioning that was happening that we are talking when you should all over yourself, that is, SHOULDS on yourself. So let's talk a little bit about how that kind of creeps up too. So we're having it all, we're comparing ourselves to other people, and inevitably the should is going to kind of creep up. I should be able to do it all. I should be able to manage fill in the blank, the kids, the job. I know personally for years, I felt like I just needed to be the Energizer Bunny. Like, I just felt like, just keep going, just keep going. Like, I was even told by a family member, you just have to persevere, just keep persevering. And so, if I did not do that, then I felt like a failure because somebody who I would look up to in a role that I was trying to achieve just told me to persevere. You just have to get through it. And again, now on the other side of things, when the three of us are wiser in what we know, I would say no, I should not have to should every little piece of my 20s, 30s, 40s. I'm not shoulding so much in my 50s. So, how about the two of you? Where are you at with your shoulds and having it all?
I think definitely anytime we're shooting on ourselves, we are most likely experiencing a lot of shame because our self-talk is, I should be doing this. I should be doing that. I shouldn't have reacted that way, whatever it is. And then we have kind of that condemnation that brings shame up for us instead of, if there is something that is your responsibility to do it, but to also look at everything from the perspective of that can wait, or I can delegate that instead of I should, I should, I should. And I relate to this. I mean, when we had 5 kids at home, I was always doing all the things. And there was a lot more that I could have handed off. So kind of preaching to myself here too.
Well, I think it's a good reminder. Again, just like none of us can have it all, none of us are perfect, and going to remember to just slow your roll just a little bit. And how can this be different? And pay attention to those thoughts. Personally, if I was not trained and coached on being more aware of what I'm thinking, I'm going to go with someone told me to persevere. That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm not going to question it. I'm just going to be the Energizer Bunny because I can have it all if I just persevere. So, if we're talking a little bit about kind of helping others who are listening and coming into the lounge to just sit back, sip your coffee, your tea, your cocktail of choice, what kind of replacement thoughts would be something that you would suggest to somebody who might be kind of struggling with this right now, especially when it comes to the balance of life? And Emily, you mentioned a little bit about like how if you can just recognize, you didn't use, I don't think you used the word season, but you just said just recognizing that this is the period of time that this is going to be happening for. Like, we all go through these, raise my kids, I'm going to focus on my certification. And maybe you're going to marry those two things together at the same time, but to be realistic about that. So, do you want to talk a little bit about some replacement thoughts that people could replace should with?
Yeah, definitely. And I think along with recognizing, like you said, what season you are in, if you have littles, if you are homeschooling or sending your kids to school for the day, if you are the woman that gets up and runs a 5K every morning before she goes to work and works a 40, 45 hour a week job and is amazing at cooking dinner. Like, everybody has different capabilities. So even when you were talking about persevering, what persevering looks like for me is going to look a lot different than what persevering is going to look like for some other people. And I think just knowing your limits and just gaining that agency back. I know my limits. I'm learning how to listen to my body. I am learning how to ask for help. And when I ask for help, that's not a bad thing. I can decide what my priorities are, right? I can live my life with intention. Yeah, just different seasons require different energy levels and different focus. So just recognizing where you are, quieting all of the outside voices, and remembering that you get to decide. I get to decide what's best for me, what's best for our family, what our capabilities are. Just reminding yourself that you get to decide, I think it's super powerful. It has been for me.
You know what was so powerful, just to listen to what you just said and kind of taking my words and almost coaching my 20-year-old self, is that the word persevering, so it doesn't have to be that word, it can be any word that somebody has shared with you, is going to mean different things to different people. And reminding everyone that you get to decide what that looks like for you. That really just gave me goosebumps a little bit. If I had had that extra sentence when I was told that, like, you just need to persevere. Whatever that looks like for you, you will
Yes,
be
that changes it.
successful. Yes.
Right? That changes the
Yes. Oh my
suggestion
gosh.
or the encouragement because the person in your life that said that probably, I don't know who it was, probably had well intentions to like
Absolutely.
encourage you to keep going. But just adding on to that, whatever that looks like for you, gives you that agency versus you just taking that, running with it, telling yourself you're not doing enough, you're not achieving enough, or whatever it might be. And the beautiful thing, too, is we are not all the same. We all work so differently. Each one of us is a unique individual, and God gives us different gifts and abilities. I know I'm not the high achieving, successful executive businesswoman. I know that is not a role that would be good for me and my family. There's other women that are, and they hold those roles beautifully. And to them, I would say, I hope that you recognize because of what you do in the workplace that you're getting the support that you need to help with taking care of the kids, meal planning, whatever it might be that you can afford to help get that support, the support that you need. And that's what makes life beautiful because we're not all supposed to be identical and achieving at the same level as everybody around us.
I love that you talked about giving coaching advice to your 20-year-old self, Lisa, because something I'm working on this quarter is my schedule and my daily routine. And I swapped the thought time management, like I need to manage my time better, for where am I investing my time? And that just shifted my emotions so much. And if I could go back and tell my young self with 5 little kids, where are you going to invest your time today? It's just such a beautiful thought that you think about, I'm investing time just holding my baby. I'm investing time, cooking a meal for my family instead of I'm managing my time so that I can do it all. It's just such a different emotional shift, and you just come into it with so much more peace for me. And I'm learning this now. I wish I had known it earlier.
Yeah, it definitely feels different just listening to you say those two examples. For me personally, it feels completely different. And you shared that with Emily and I a couple times. Please continue to share that because I need that reminder too. It's not something I don't have the mindset of how am I investing my time. I definitely, especially as a recovering perfectionist or someone who is very type A, it's important for me to hear things like that. Like, how am I going to invest my time today instead of how am I managing my day? Now, granted, I enjoy a good, check off list, but I can do both. I can invest my time and still have a check off list without feeling like I am being micromanaged because of how I'm managing my day with all the have tos. and then feel like I didn't accomplish anything at the end of the day if there was no investment happening. I love that you shared that with us in the Marcos and then here. Yeah, that's a priceless nugget there for all you out there. I don't think it matters what age you are. Like that's priceless.
I think it shows too that the power of that, just switching that one word changes the whole perspective of what you're
Yes.
trying to do. You're still doing the same thing. The task itself is the same, but the way you approach it, there's just so much more peace and agency over it with that one little change of that word.
That's right. Well, thank you, ladies, for having this extension conversation about my unpopular opinion about women having it all. I think it's important to just remember to just listen to the words that we speak. Like, that's a good place to start. And Angela has mentioned on many occasions journaling, like get it all out, just write it all down. It's amazing what kind of aha moments you have when you see those words in print. So, thank you both for having this conversation with me today in the lounge. And if anyone listening needs that reminder that the pressure to have it all often prevents us from fully enjoying what we have right now. So one of my favorite sayings, I'll leave with a favorite instead of one that I think is toxic garbage. My favorite saying is be where your feet are.
I love
Be
that.
be present, be where your feet are. And we're so glad that you joined us today in the lounge, and we would absolutely love it if anyone has any takeaways from this particular phrase that you hear used often. Or maybe you have another phrase that you're like, hey, have you guys thought about this phrase? Why don't you kind of pull that apart a little bit? We would love it if you would share. So please follow us on Instagram at the Life Coach Lounge. Follow us individually. Reach out to any of us if you have any questions. And definitely if you are like, well, you all just said it so easily, how you just changed your mindset. I am going to remind you, it doesn't happen overnight. It took all of us a lot of practice to get to our ability to do that. And that's what we're here for. So if you need assistance with that, just send any of us a private message and we would be glad to kind of walk you through it. So until next time, I will see you ladies in the Marcos for another great conversation, and we'll see the rest of you in the lounge next week.